It's a new year and a new beginning, or is it really? In order for this to be true, for us to have new beginnings, it's going to take a little work, and I'm sure you know that, you realize that. So today I want to offer you a training video, a masterclass that I've been doing annually for all my Silva Method graduates in our community. And I wanted to make this special recording just for you because I think you'll get really good value. And what I want to recommend is that you have pencil and paper or pen handy. If you're one of my students, then you've received a workbook. You may remember that you were to download the end of the year masterclass. Either way, and even if you don't have the workbook, it's still okay. Be clear. So here we go. You ready? Our mission, our intention is to take command of our lives. Can you see that? Our mission further is that we navigate life with more grace, more ease, and in flow with our intuition. We're not looking for perfection. Nobody's perfect, but we are looking to be resilient, to bounce back, to navigate some of the stuff that's going on and not let the stuff that's going on become ours. Yes, we want to pay attention to problems, pay attention to crises, pay attention to challenges. They seem to be all about us on this beautiful planet. However, it really is an art and a skill to master our lives in such a way that we don't internalize these challenges that we all face. We all have our share of challenges. So that we don't internalize them in such a way that we're debilitated. We want to be there for our family, be there for our clients, be there for our students, be there for our patients, whoever that might be. And that really takes effort. It's not enough to just think about it. And this is why I want to offer you this training video. It's a 3-step framework, and I'll build it out. And I'm going to ask you also at times to perhaps pause the video and jot down some things. So let's take a look, keeping in mind our intention. What's important to you? First step is, let's reflect on the prior year. This is good any time of the year to do, not just the end of the year, frankly. You can reflect on the day, reflect on the month. So in this instance, we reflect on the prior year, since we just completed one. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, as you reflect on it, what is, shall we say, 10 of your top memories? What is your first impression that comes to mind? Without giving it a lot of deep thought, as you think about some of your best memories, I like to call them moments of excellence. Times when you feel best, when you were at your best, when your best self showed up, when you performed at your best, when you succeeded, attained a goal, had a wonderful conversation with a dear friend, resolved a conflict, got that bonus, scaled up your business. You get the idea? And why is this important? You want to reflect on it, yes, and jot it down as it comes to you, and then celebrate it. Of course, we all know about the importance of gratitude. It's an age-old principle that goes back thousands of years. However, in recent years, thanks to neuroscience, we know the value and how it affects the health of our brain. How, when we're in a state of gratitude and appreciation that's genuine, it helps us to elevate our emotions in such a way that we attract more of the good. We seem to be more and more in the right place at the right time. We think more clearly. We have access to higher thinking functions, and we feel more optimistic and even have innovative, intuitive type thoughts. If we're living in stress mode, worry mode, scarcity consciousness, it's just the opposite. Everything's blocked. Let me give you a quick example, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I'm going to ask you to pause the video. A long time ago, when Isaac Pavlov, you may remember the name, Mr. Conditioning himself, was studying that. The way the story goes is, this is before we had penicillin and antibiotics, stuff like that. And he was dying of a bacterial infection. And it appeared to be, by the science of the day, the medicine of the day, that his days were numbered. So while on his supposed deathbed, he made a request that seemed strange at first to the people helping him, his staff. He asked them to go to the river and get some mud, collect some mud and bring it back to him. They'd do anything for him. They went to the river, collected some mud, put it in a pail, and then when they brought it to Pavlov, and he put his hands into it, all of a sudden, it's like he came to life. Big smile. He looked joyful, at ease, for the first time in a long time. And he started shaping and molding it and playing with it and enjoying it. And they were thrilled, happy that they put a smile on his face. Except later that day, he was showing signs of recovery. He seemed to be improving his health. Went to sleep that night, and the next day, he had recovered even more so. And within a short period, I don't recall exactly, but a short period of time, I'm talking days at most, he had a full remission, full recovery. And about 2 weeks later, when it was evident that he was back, his staffer said, "What is it about the mud?" At first we thought it was a strange request. And he told them, I believed in my heart that if I could recapture what he called a holy moment, a time when I felt love and joy, I could get back into homeostasis, balance, which would pump up my immune system and help me to heal. And he told them that when he was a youngster coming from a large family, the only time he had the undivided attention of his mother was at the riverbank where she was doing the laundry. And she would sing him songs, lullabies. And it was their time, and it was a beautiful moment. And he said it was the only time I really felt that she cared about me and loved me and I was getting her attention. That again he called a holy moment. I'm calling it a moment of excellence. We've all had throughout our lifetime some moments of excellence. Can you think of some? This is so vitally important. I could not say enough of it, and to celebrate it, because it's a way to boost your confidence, to study, to review, to relive a moment of excellence, especially if you're about to move into a new event, a new challenge, a new opportunity, a new situation that you feel temporarily a little doubtful or hesitant, apprehensive. Hey, I've been doing this work 54 years. I'm the lead instructor, training director for the Silva Method. I've been all over the world before hundreds, thousands of people, small groups, large groups, in person. And it never goes away. Every time I'm with a new group, it's not that I'm freaking out, but I get a little more anxious. I get a little more edgy. And I like it. I call it creative unrest. It tells me I care and I'm getting ready to do my thing, to perform, to serve my community, to facilitate an outstanding immersion of Silva life and intuition system. Excuse me. By the way, I'm going to ask you, excuse me up front, I've been nurturing, just getting over a head cold for the past few days, but I really wanted to get this out, so I'll do my best for you. That's a moment of excellence. When you study that, it puts you back into the zone, back into that state. Every time before I do a presentation, before I do a new class, I review some moments of excellence and I relive it as if I'm there. And I want you to do the same thing. So note down some of these moments. And just taking right from the workbook, and for those of you who don't have the workbook, that's cool. So 10 top memories. Now pause the video and just jot down what comes to mind. And now you're back. Ideally, you've paused the video. Please participate. Do this. I really want you to get good value from this. And you will. It'll make a big difference. Second question. I'm only going to do 3 questions. What are 3 challenges that you faced well? What comes to mind? Again, pause the video. Jot down any challenge, small or large, that you handled well. You worked it out. Excellent. Good job. And another, I'm just reading right from, excuse me, the workbook. What got better for you this past year? What improved? Any area of your health, a relationship, your business, a challenging situation with a client, a customer, a child? Again, pause the video, write it down. And then what I want you to do is to celebrate this. Again, I'm going to ask you in a moment, after you look this over, you're reflecting on it, to pause the video, close your eyes. If you're a Silva Method practitioner, you've been through Silva Life and Intuition System, we spent 4 days, over 40 hours of training, building this out. Use your tools. They work. If you've just done the home study or read the book, do your best. If you're really new to this, again, do your best. Close your eyes, quiet place where you won't be interrupted. 3 slow, deep belly breaths. Nasal breaths, inhaling through your nose, holding it briefly, and then exhaling out your mouth. Once you do that, review what you feel grateful for, what you feel gratitude for, as as if you were there. And allow yourself to feel it. This will elevate your emotions. And not just today, but do this anytime you're going into a new situation. It's a great way to begin your day. It's a great way to go to sleep. You'll sleep better. Get the idea? So again, pause the video and take that time. All you need is about 3 minutes, maybe 5 tops. Excellent. Good job. Good job. Happy for you. 3-step framework. Reflect, release, third, reinvent. So let's look at number 2, releasing. And the question is, as you look over the past year, or again, it could be the past month, it could be a day, what has been stopping you, getting in the way? What are some of the things that you'd like to, be done with? And let me just give you a little bit of thought to think about, some food for thought. And I have behind me on the board some information. What stops us? First would be bad thinking. And one that I want to single out would be dread. Is there some aspect of your life that you dread having to deal with, to do? It could be if you're in a toxic work environment, or if you're, I hope not, a toxic relationship, you're going to have a lot of dread. And it's nearly impossible to be at your best, to be a high performer, to do your thing effectively when we're in that state. When we're in a state of dread, we'll tend to procrastinate. We'll find excuses not to do what needs to be done. So perhaps one solution for that might be to find someone, hire someone you can delegate to, who can do that. And maybe they do it better than you do. Or you may need to make some changes. I can tell you, so many people I've met, taken the Silva training, some of our graduates, our students, who found themselves in a toxic work environment, and they left. And they took a big pay cut, up to 30%. And then they tell me I'm actually saving more, and I'm more at peace with myself and feel more joyful and happier. I mean, you can see that, of course. Why? Because when we are in dread, when we are in stress mode, we tend to mindlessly shop, mindlessly spend, mindlessly get easily distracted. And that costs us time and money. Another one to look at is, can you think of that? Bad habits such as avoiding. If there's a new skill you need to learn, hey, true confessions. I'm no tech wizard, but I've had to learn and develop. And I go back, I'm one of the earliest instructors. And the game has changed in how we reach out people and communicate and serve them. So I admit, there's times when there are upgrades to the technology or the platforms that I manage for my students to communicate with them. Sometimes I avoid it. I admit, I put it off because I don't thoroughly understand it. And I go into, I just don't want to deal with it. But then I'll ask for help. I'll find somebody I can trust who can guide me. I'll hire someone, whatever, to take care of that. And then I'm ready to rock and roll. And you can do the same thing. Overcommitment is another bad habit. Some people are such people pleasers. And let me say, on one hand, I think it's wonderful to be nice to people, to be generous, to care, to help people, to be of assistance. Let's face it, though, we only have so much bandwidth. So we've got to be really careful to manage our energy and to leverage it, because if we're overdoing it, we won't have anything left for ourselves or for who or what is most important. And sometimes we need to have very strong boundaries, a schedule. And a client calls or someone you care about and have an emergency, but you're fully booked out, you're overbooked, you got to tell them that. I love you, I care, but I've got this booked out. Maybe in a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, we can get back to you. I mean, unless it was someone on a personal level, like your children, of course. I drop everything for my children, my grandchildren, my wife, etc. But you get the idea? Everybody, too often people procrastinate and put off to the last minute, and then it becomes an emergency. Well, that's on them, not you, if you're doing your part. So we got to be really careful about managing overcommitment. And last, bad relationships, which we looked at, toxic. It's nearly impossible to be at our best, to feel peaceful and joyful, if we're holding on to rage, anger, resentment. These are things that need to be dealt with, some of the solutions. So let's take a look at, let me ask you a couple of questions in the second part of our three-step framework. Again, if you don't mind, I'm going to refer to this. And again, you have the workbook, so we're on page 3, if you have the workbook. What do I need to spend less time worrying about? What's your first thought? For some of you, it might be money. For some of you, it might be your children. Barbara and I, my wife, we have 3 adult children. They have their own families. And I would do anything for them. And sometimes I need to remind myself that, hey, they're adults. They're responsible. They're not asking for help. And it's up to them. It's not my burden to carry. I hope you get what I'm saying. The correct impression there is that we can't do everything for everybody, especially if they're not asking for help. So what are some of the things you need less time worrying about? Another question, or who do I need to spend less time around? Less time worrying? Who to spend less time around? And the third one, who do I need to forgive? So again, pause the video. First impressions, write it down. Who do you need to forgive? What do you need to spend less time worrying about? And who do you need to spend less time with? Because you know, who we spend most of our time with, we become just like them. We learn from them. So be selective. Do your best to be as much as you can with people who support you, who love you, who encourage you, in your corner. So again, pause the video. What are your first impressions? And write that down. Good job. Good job. Excellent. So let's talk about some solutions now. Again, I hope you're participating, you're pausing the video and doing your thing. Some solutions for the releasing. One is, now jot this down, I'll give you the gist of it. I do a lot of reading, a lot of research in psychology, in positive psychology, in neuroscience. And I'm not recalling specifically, but it was a great idea. And the gist of it was, as a solution, we know that the brain is very responsive to symbols, to metaphors. And sometimes more so. If you look at some of the work of the brilliant oncologist, Dr. Carl Simonton, way back, as a cancer specialist oncologist who took the Silva training and became the first to use guided imagery and relaxation with success in helping his patients. Carl Simonton. One of his books he wrote was Getting Well Again. He's no longer alive. He goes back to my time. I met him in 1973 when he spoke to us in Boston at a convention. But he basically found if he took what we were being taught by, age-old teachings, think positive, you're free of cancer, you're healthy, everything's perfect. Could people do it? No way. It was unbelievable. It was too much. It was, especially back then. But he found if he played silly games with them and had them mentally rehearse something that was symbolic of a change taking place in their body, that seemed to be helping and worked. And if you've done any reading on this, some of these seems like wild guided imagery exercises were, he'd have a patient, he's like, would you imagine you've got soldiers in your body, a group dressed in red, a group dressed in white, and they're in battle. And the soldiers dressed in white are overpowering those dressed in red. That they could do. But it was very symbolic of what? Having more white blood cells, which is what you needed, and less red blood cells, which is contributing to the cancerous condition. And there's more. He did psychotherapy, he did nutrition counseling, but this became one of his fortes that really upped his game. So this exercise you can do, we'll call the floating leaves on the river. So what you can do is in a moment, you'll pause the video, close your eyes again, make sure you're in place where you won't be interrupted. 3 slow, deep belly breaths. Feel some gratitude, some appreciation, get into that state as if you're there. And then, mentally, what you wrote down, reflect on what you want to release. some of the people in your life, or some of the situations that you want to let go of, some of the tendencies or habits that are getting in the way, holding you back. We all have our list. Right? The difference that will make the difference is you doing this internally. You cannot do this intellectually. I'm sorry. You can go to every motivational seminar and rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Good luck. You need to make the shift. So what you're doing is you're looking to get yourself into an alpha theta state, altering your consciousness, moving from here where we're ruled by logic, reasoning, the facts, show me the money, science. Here, though, is possibilities, the field, the possibilities, ideas, where innovation comes from, ideas, dreams, new beginnings. And we need a combination of the two. So in this work, what you want to do is create a state. And doing this, I can tell you, there's a good chance it'll help boost your immune system and help support your health and your well-being. So you're going to take one at a time. Imagine you've got, sitting by your side, this big, huge green leaf. Make it green, healing green. And imagine you're placing, and if you do your best to visualize, or at least just describe it. You're placing your concern, what you want to let go of, on the leaf, and you're putting it on the river, and the current is so strong that it's just floating rapidly down the river, leaving, and you're letting go. And you can even say something like, I forgive you and release you. You can use that. There are a lot of ways to do forgiveness. You can also use this, if it's not too serious a situation, for some minor forgiveness. I forgive you and release you. Go your own way and be happy. It's like a letting go. Give it a shot. I think you'll be surprised pleasantly. So you want to pause the video and do this. Good job, guys. I'm hoping that you're doing this, following along. Second solution, there's a lot. I would look forward with my advanced students of Silva Mastery, or even in the immersion of Silva Life and Intuition system. I offer a lot of additional support like this, workshops, online, in person, a lot of coaching, one-on-one that's complimentary when people go through the class. And these are kinds of games that we can play for self-improvement, for personal development, for high performance, for improving the quality of life. Just giving you a sample here, keeping it as simple as possible so that you can internalize some good changes. So one more exercise you can write down. If you're a Silva Method practitioner, you're very familiar with one of the most famous techniques, the ultimate reframing technique that we teach in the class and play with, mirror of the mind. And what you can do on a daily basis, and you can do right now to your responses to some of these questions, and those of you who have the workbook, answer all the questions, please. I counted them. I think there's like 50 questions. Oh my God, it's a lot. Block out the time. It's worth it. This is your life. If you really want to have a new beginning and a new life and be more resilient, got to do some work. It's the only way it's going to happen. It's not going to happen just like people who make New Year's resolutions. A couple of days later, they forget about it. Certainly within a month. It's anywhere from 70 to 90% within a short period of time. They're done. They haven't followed through. But not you. Because you're watching this video. If you're still watching it, you care. So the second thing that you can do is, again, you're going to close your eyes. Second exercise. 3 slow, deep breaths. Feel some gratitude, appreciation. It gets you into that state. So if you're not a Silva practitioner, the symbology we use is blue frame. And you're acknowledging the way things have been, the situation, what it is you want to release. Maybe it's a mistake you made. Maybe it's an accident you had. Maybe it's something you wish you hadn't done. You said the wrong thing. Can you relate? We've all been there. We've all done that. That's what goes in the blue frame. So you're not ignoring it. You're taking responsibility. You're acknowledging it and telling yourself, I'm better than that. I forgive myself. You're giving yourself permission not to be perfect. I've been teaching this to my Silva advanced students since 1983, traveling the world, and I get more feedback from this. It is a surefire way. You do this at night before you go to sleep. So you forgive yourself, and then on your timeline, you go back in time to the challenge, the situation, whether it be earlier that day, earlier in the year, earlier that month. Get the idea? And you don't want to re-experience it, but you want to acknowledge it as if you're there. forgiving yourself, I'm better than that. And as if you were a movie director, you're saying, cut, and you change it. And you reframe and you imagine yourself or visualize yourself or feel yourself acting more appropriately, acting more effectively, excuse me, with your best self emerging. Get the idea? And a good time to do this is you're going to pause the video and do it, but then at night before you go to sleep, because you're going to sleep with a positive image and feeling. And whatever you give attention to, you give energy to. Whatever you give energy to will grow and multiply. So when people play the game, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if they're filled up and we can't get a parking space or we can't get a reservation? Or what if... What you realize, you're inadvertently practicing what you don't want. And whatever we give energy to, we give attention to, we give energy to, will grow and multiply. So it's important that we mentally rehearse, after you acknowledge the way things have been and you forgive yourself, what you prefer, how you prefer to be. Get the idea? And that's also part of going into this. So you're going to pause the video and do this. Excuse me. Doing pretty good. I'm managing it. Number 3 in the framework. So we did reflecting and celebrating on moments of excellence, releasing what stops us, putting them on the leaves, floating down the river, using mirror of the mind, doing some timeline, forgiving yourself, reframing as if that's how you had acted. And now the reinvention. Last step. Today, more than ever, we all need to be adaptable. Things are moving at such an incredible rate. I know you know this. And things are changing. And there's a high level of uncertainty. And I can tell you, in any aspect of our lives, we need to be, as far as I'm concerned, adaptable. Adaptable so that we adjust. And that's what resilience is all about, so that we can bounce back, so we can move with the flow, move with the wind, so to speak. And one way to do that, part of the reinventing of ourselves, is to allow your best self to emerge and to think about who or what's really important to you. Think right now. If there was someone or an opportunity in your life that was no longer available, you'd miss them. You'd feel a loss. Jot that down. And I'll read you a couple of questions just to get you thinking, to help you out. What new thoughts will give you an edge in 2025? Again, in a moment, you're going to pause the video. What new thoughts will give you an edge in 2025? Or any year, anytime. Again, as you pause it, jot down. And then come back. Another question. I'm only going to do 3. What new health routines will give you more energy, more vitality, so you can be at your best? Again, pause the video, jot down. And let's do one last one. I have it memorized. There's too many questions, 50. Ask yourself, what can you or what can I build, learn, or invest in now that will lead to outsized returns in 5 to 10 years? What can you build, invest in now that will lead to greater returns, that will help you? Again, you're going to pause the video and think about that. I'll give you an example. I'm versed in a lot of modalities. And as I said, this isn't my first rodeo. But I always come back to the Silva Method. I started in 1971. I was flunking out of Boston University, if you know my story, by using the 3 fingers technique, rapid learning that we teach, accelerated learning or super learning. I graduated cum laude, and I was a full-time student at Boston University and teaching Silva full-time in the metropolitan Boston area, working for people who put Silva on the map. It's an incredible time. And that's what I've been doing since then. 1974, I moved to Connecticut. I used the tools to stop getting headaches. I don't need drugs or medication. And it's funny, here I am with a head cold, but it's rare. And when I do get them, I seem to recover, pretty quickly. Get the idea with that? I always remember my mom taking the, at first she's making the sign of the cross, praying for me, turned white as a ghost. But then when she saw the changes in me, she took the class. And every day she did what we call the long relax. She had me do it in my voice for her, and I did it on a cassette for her, a little rinky-dink setting, but I did it, and every day she used, and she stopped having asthma attacks, and she used to chronically suffer from asthma. She was debilitated as a child growing up with arthritis, deforming her hands and no energy. She became like a new woman. Wow. And as things like this start happening with students I was teaching, that's what keeps me going. It's people like you. We all need to be a little more generous, a little bit kinder, a little bit better, so people will live with us more easily, will be more effective, better citizens in the community. Let's face it, as more of us do that. So what's really important to you? Who or what's important to you? You can pause the video. All right, excellent. Good job. And now I have a treat for you, and it's an exercise. Because this is a training video, and ideally you're jotting down notes, I'm not going to attempt to go into a guided meditation for the purposes here, because I don't want to rush it. I want to set it up for you, what to do, and it's something I'll do it in a way that you can easily do this on your own for that. It's called, what does your ideal or best self look like in the new year? And how will you know? So how will you be thinking? How will you be acting? How will you behaving? How will you feel? What kinds of feedback will you get from the community, people in your life, that tells you your best self has emerged and you're doing the job? So if you're in business and you're a therapist, a coach, a physician, a nurse, your patients, clients are raving about breakthroughs they're having. If you're a Silva instructor, same thing. If it's a relationship, whether it be romantic or a relationship with your children or your relationship with friends, how will you know your best self has emerged when you're there with them and socializing? How are you thinking, behaving, acting, and what kind of feedback do you get from them? If you're building your business, how will you know you're a high performer? So you want to spell it out and pause the video and write down, what will your ideal or best self look like? In fact, you can ask the question, what if my best self were to emerge in this relationship? What if my best self were to emerge in my business? What if my best self were to emerge in the community I serve? So pause it, jot down. Excellent, excellent. So here's the exercise then. When we're done, I want you then to take some time and to close your eyes, comfortable place, 3 slow, deep belly breaths, feel some gratitude, some appreciation, and then do for yourself a best self exercise. In any situation, do it in other words, you've heard people say, we don't want to be defined by memories of the past. We want to be defined by a vision of our future. That's Dr. Joe Dispenza. I mean, others I'm sure have said that, but I remember hearing that from him. Good stuff. Let's be defined by a vision of our future. And I can tell you, this best self exercise, there are a number of, since 2011, right up to 2020 that I know of, Harvard studies and other top-level universities, where they had a control group do nothing and another group do a best self exercise, 15 minutes a day, just for a week. And those people, by far, who did the best self exercise, pencil and paper, just like that, had far more high levels of happiness and joy that they felt and were more optimistic. For people who were experiencing pain, the pain diminished. And even 6 months later, these are various studies that are out there that you can search. So we're past the woo-woo phase. It's up to you to do this. Actually take the time. It works. And when you're in that state of optimism, that's a way to shift out of stress mode. It's a way to shift out of survival mode, scarcity mode, and to get you into an elevated state of hope, optimism, And when you're in that state, your brain chemistry changes, your body chemistry changes, and you will more likely access higher thinking functions and intuitive insights. And that, my friends, is the science. So let me add a little bit more to help you with this best self. In fact, you can search on my YouTube channel. There are all sorts of videos that I've done, and one is called the 5 Jumpstart Questions. And it's very simple, and yet the results can be profound. We all know that clarity is power. So here are questions I'll ask you, and you can jot down right now, pencil and paper. What do you want to create this year? What do you want to create? So I wouldn't do everything, but one at a time. Chunk it down, or things that relate to this one thing. So you might have, of course, multiple goals, multiple aspirations. Pick one. So what do you want to create? And what's motivating you to create this? What's motivating you? That's your big why. For example, people say, I'm going into my 54th year. Why do I continue doing this? Silva Method. And you're teaching. I'm turned 73 this past October. Because I love it. And one sure way to reinvent yourself and your best self, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. You ever hear that saying? Well, it is work, of course. And there's a lot of energy expended and effort. But there's no dread. There's a love of it, an appreciation of it. Again, it's people like you. And what I'm recommending with the best self is, let's all start imagining and taking random acts of kindness, being a little bit more generous, a little bit kinder, a little bit more appreciative. Can you imagine what your life would be like as more and more people act and behave that way? And it begins with you, it begins with me. So let's not wait for them. Let's start doing that and be a living example. Let's be the change that we know we want to see in the world. That's the surefire thing. There's not going to be some big savior or great politician who's going to save us. Yeah, right. We've all been through that. How long? So what's motivating? You got to have your purpose, your big why. Third, what talents, strengths do you have that align with your attention? Now here's a key. You may not have those skills and you need some levels of competence. I've always been a collaborator, but I admit, in 2015, I scaled up my investment in myself, and I spent well over $30,000 since 2015 to about 20-ish, 19, taking training, looking at what was going on in the field, learning from people who had proven track record, learning marketing, because that's important to get the message out with people, learning how to improve my voice quality with a voice coach, learning how presentations. So what are you investing in yourself? It's very important. It's not just going to happen because you're a good person. It's important that we invest in ourselves and get the necessary training, the right training to help bring that out. And when you do this question with talent strengths, you may realize, I'm a little weak here, I need help. And that's what happened for me. The fourth question is, how will this benefit you and anyone you care about? So when you're looking at whatever it is that you want to create in this new year, the month, how will it benefit you or anybody you care about? Very important. The surest way to stay motivated is to be really focused on both the intrinsic and extrinsic benefits. How will it benefit you and how will it benefit others? That's what keeps us going. For me, although my children are grown, we have 3 grandchildren. There are things that we like to do. We like to share with our grandchildren and to be very generous. There's special camps that if we can afford to, we like to do for them. Things like that. And that takes, obviously, revenue. So think of things like that, that not just about us, gimme, 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 what you want to do for somebody else, what you want to be able to do that's going to help make their life a little bit better. So the 5 questions, very simply, are what do you want to create? What's motivating you to create this? What talents and strengths do you have that are in alignment? Or what don't you have? And why is it valuable to you? How will it benefit you and anyone you care about? Those benefits, which is actually, why is it valuable to you? What the gain? But question 5 is including you and others. And it's a surefire way to stay motivated with anything you do. So please, guys, make sure you do this. When we finish up, the video, take a few moments, close your eyes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you want, and do the best self exercise. You've been great. If you're still here watching it, I salute you. You love yourself enough to take care of yourself. I also appreciate you giving me the opportunity to present this to you, this training video. I'd love to hear from you and what you're doing and how it's working out. So remember the 3-step framework: reflect and celebrate on your moments of excellence. Release what's been stopping you. Do the floating leaf on the river exercise. Mirror the mind with your timeline for the self-forgiveness. And then 3, the reinvention, building your resilience, your adaptability, focusing on what's really important, who's really important in your life. And that includes the best self-exercise. So again, you guys rock. Keep in mind, my hope for you, slogan I like to use is do good. Do your best. Do good in the world. Some random acts of kindness. Instead of walking through your community complaining about, like I used to, litter bugs, garbage all over, I sometimes carry a plastic bag with me and pick it up. And I feel a release. It doesn't change the fact that people are unconsciously dirtying the community, but it makes a lot more sense because complaining just creates tension and anxiety. So do good. Make a contribution. What is your contribution? Your unique contribution to your community, to your family, to your clients, to your students. How can you scale up your competence? How can you improve the value you bring to the game? You add more value, you improve your competence, and your revenue will grow as a result. So do good, make a difference, make your contribution, have fun, and have fun. Do what you love, do what you believe in, do what you feel good about, and thrive. Learn to thrive. It's okay. You're doing good like that. You deserve to thrive in every way. Till the next time, you take care.